Like, we need to focus on the artists, not the platforms. Because the platforms are just what they are. They're just platforms for you to release the music and figure out like your walk with it. But artists have been doing so many different kinds of cool drops. I've seen artists take their whole album, put it on Sound XYZ, then release a music video, do Twitter spaces along with that, do an IG with that, and like figure out a way to gravitate their Web 2 audience into the Web 3 space, figure out ways to gravitate their Web 3 audience into the Web 2 space, and so on and so forth. So there's just like a lot of different ways that you could release this. But as for the platforms, aggregation is definitely here. And we're witnessing a lot of these platforms just be like, okay, let's take some of the content from that platform and bring it to us, et cetera, et cetera.
Hi everyone, on this episode of New Forum, multi-hyphenated artist and founder of ZORATOPIA joins me to talk about her journey working in Web3 and making music. We'll talk about her trip to Korea and her recent Sotheby's drop. LATASHÁ, I am happy to have you here. I'm glad it's happening. So welcome to New Forum.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here as well.
Amazing. So you've done a lot of work, spearheading initiatives in the NFT community focused on onboarding musicians and marginalized artists to the forefront of crypto and tech and blockchain. Like, how did this all begin for you?
Yeah, so I've been doing music for about 10 years. I am a Wesleyan graduate. So I studied hip hop, performance art, Black studies, and psychology in college. And I really was into performance art, thought I was going to do Broadway, and life just was like, yeah, about that. And then I got like a 9-to-5 job at a finance firm and hated it. So at night, I would pretty much do poetry slams and like ciphers throughout Brooklyn, because that's where I'm from. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And before I knew it, I was making mixtapes. Mixtapes turned to me, performing in the same lines of like Kanye and Q-Tip and Big Sean, opening for a lot of them, Princess Nokia and some major big heads. And then I almost got a record deal, but I kept finding that a lot of these record deals were just not to my liking. I have a law understanding, and I was just like, these deals are pretty much telling me that I have to do all this work, give them all of my music, and they own everything and then some. And so I was like, I don't like this. I was really depressed about it, actually, because I just loved making music so much. And I was like, how can I do this and actually survive and be like a full-time creative if these labels want to take all of my money? And so I just stayed independent. I figured out independence. I started writing music for commercials and TV and people, and then also became a resident artist at National Sawdust and The Shed in New York City, and then moved to moved to LA. I'm from New York. Moved to LA to do some more like music work, but still wasn't finding that thing that would like cut the middleman and allow me to be my fullest self until I got to Web3. And that happened through the pandemic. I always tell everybody, I think we manifested Web3 because we were always like, I want to get rid of the middleman. I want to figure out how to talk direct to my consumer. And I want all of my transactions to be as transparent as possible, because in the music industry, they're just not. And so one day my partner came in the room and he was like, yo, you ever heard of Web3 crypto art? I was like, no. And I was like, absolutely not. And from there, I started studying blockchain because I got really interested watching him grow. And from there, I minted my first music video February of 2021 and became the first woman rapper on blockchain, and then the first to bring music videos on blockchain.
Wow. That's
I know that was a lot.
No, but I mean, it was quite an impressive background. And I mean, I really love that you shared everything, sharing your story, and you're being transparent about it, because you're inspiring a lot of people. And so I'm super excited about this. I know I read this interview you did on Vice, and I think it's about right about the time that I think you sold your song on catalog, I think. And
Yeah.
at the time there was a quote, you said that this is allowing me to live well. And you said something about being a woman of color, like who didn't, I think, come up with a lot of money or privilege to create. This is allowing that, is allowing you to do so. And
Yeah.
and so that was like 3 years ago, right? And I'm sure a lot happened, and especially in crypto Web3 time, that's like a lot, right? So I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, like, what is the current status of music NFTs, and
Yeah.
so maybe we can talk a bit about like what music NFTs are, and
Yeah,
if
sure.
you could walk us through like the process of it, like how you go through it, and has there been a significant difference since then?
Yeah, so music NFTs are pretty much any um non-fungible token, or like I like to say a box what you put into things. So non-fungible tokens are like boxes in the crypto world that you could put different information into. So that could be music, art, whatever you want. And so music NFTs is pretty much this ability to put music into an NFT. And that could look at like a actual MP3, that could look like an MP4, that could look like lyrics, it could look like a lot of different things. Those are music NFTs, for starters. Um, the Web3 space is right now in a big transitional space. I think some people call it the bear market. I like to call it the transitional walk, just because the space boomed very quickly.
Mhm.
And in order to pretty much clean up the mess of the boom, we got to have these low points. And I like to look at it like that. Most people are just like, it's crashing, it's crashing. And I'm like, no, it's transitioning, it's weeding out the nonsense. And so that's where the space at a whole is. And then, of course, music NFTs are kind of a part of that walk. However, we've witnessed a really big height, like happen for music NFTs recently. Like things are just growing massively because the costs are lower. So more people are involved in the space now because they could actually afford to be involved in the space. So I'm witnessing a lot of artists do really well in music NFTs, including myself, Daniel Allen, TK, Iman Europe. There's so many doing amazing things. Also, this amazing artist named Heno, who's doing like a short film with his music drops. And it's just really beautiful to see music artists take this tool and transform distribution and how they want to present themselves in the world and really get good feedback out of it, and really dope consumers who actually care and want to support their work.
Thanks for sharing that. When we talk about NFTs and music NFTs, it gets me thinking about like collecting a tokenized version of a song, right? And I'm curious to know, does it mean the same thing as NFT art, or as it happens in the art world?
Yeah, pretty much it's in the same kind of vein. Music NFTs are a tokenized form of the music. Therefore, you're not actually owning the actual song. You're owning just that NFT. So you won't be owning the masters or the copyright of the song. You'll literally just be owning the NFT. And so, yeah, it's in the same veins, except art does a different thing than music, obviously. And art has for a long time been valued at higher rates than music, right? Like music has always been undervalued through streaming services and platforms. And in the art realm, we have beautiful like auction houses and spaces that have like really taken care of art and put real value to it. So it's a different kind of game, but we're trying to show that music is in the same veins as fine art.
And I'm curious to know that, because with art collectibles, right? It's easy to display this and kind of show this off, right? So how are collectors, like, how does it happen, like with collectors in like the music world? as an artist, do you have to also make sure you put a lot of work in like the album cover, or like, some sort of a art to go with the music? How does it work?
Yeah, it works almost just like releasing music regardless. You want to still have a really dope package for everything that you're releasing. So you do want to have a really fire cover art. You do maybe want to have a music video attached to it, behind the scenes content, et cetera, et cetera. At the root, what really matters about this NFT is the story. People care about the story behind the work that you're releasing, not so much about just like the NFT by itself and that's it. People want to see your whole self in the piece. So yes, it still has that attachment as well.
Amazing. I guess it's perfect timing to talk about your role at our Zora, and I know that you're building Zoratopia. So what is the connection and how did that happen for you?
Yeah, so I started working for Zora back in 2021. I want to say the summer of 2021. They hired me as community lead there. And, Dee, who's this amazing CFO at Zora, was just like, you have the right attitude for this space. You need to be a part of our team. And so I was like, of course, I would love to. I love Zora. It was the first protocol that I ever used in Web3. And they just always supported me deeply. And so started working there and realized that there was like a deep lack in education on Web3. And there wasn't really like this community bond for BIPOC, queer, and marginalized communities. And so I started Zoratopia, one, because I was getting so many DMs, like hundreds and hundreds of DMs about what NFTs are, what's Web3. So I was like, okay, I can't teach all of y'all. So I'm just going to do like some sort of seminar or hangout on Zoom calls. And so it started out as like this Zoom call where I taught people how to get their wallets, how to mint NFTs, how to get to know what NFTs are, what NFTs meant to me and my story as a woman of color growing up in Brooklyn, and who has this love for art. It was really hard. It was really hard to figure out how to maintain and find stability in my craft if I couldn't make this constant flow of income or have anything that was pushing it. And so I told a lot of that story through Zoratopia, and it grew massively. Like we started with 40 people at the seminars. Now we're at 4,000 subscribers, which is amazing. And then to grow, we decided to do IRL events. So we threw an event at Art Basel last year. Well, we've thrown 2 events now at Art Basel. We also did South by Southwest. We had our own event in Oakland. And we've just really been traveling with this understanding. So it's not just like a party, it's like an educational space.
Right.
And it's a celebration of the Web3 artists that are coming up. So we do have performances of all the Web3, well, not all of them, but a lot of the amazing Web3 artists that are coming up in the space. Some of our favorites are like Iman and Heno, Ibn and Galore, Jamie Cornelia. They are like our major highlights that continuously grow with us. And so Zoratopia is like this fly touring festival / educational space for Web3 right now. And I'm really excited for its growth.
I love it. I saw some pictures and I was like, I want to be there too.
Yeah, that's the place you want to be. We're because of just like the shift in the market right now, we're focusing in on education this year, but we're definitely going to be bringing back events next year.
Nice. I'll be looking forward to that. And I mean, from what she said, like with the significant like growth in number, it shows that education is really lacking in this space. And I'm curious to know, would you say that, because you mentioned that you had blockchain education, right? And most artists might not be really like interested in diving deep into the tech like side of things. Would you say that, like, how did that help you? How did that help you in this process? And would you recommend that everyone dive deeper in there also?
Yeah, I think if you're an artist in any business and want to get into anything, you should know about the business no matter what. Even if it's just like reading one book and just getting to know and understand what the technology of your business is, you should know. So the music industry, etc. And I, like I said, am a DIY independent, like figure it out myself kind of artist. And so I read everything and I like really get deep into it. So with blockchain, it's really hard because everything is so new, right? The information is changing daily, things are growing daily. And so Zoratopia to me became very crucial because it needed to be like a standing point for a lot of the artists to understand where the tech is right now for them, right? And it was kind of this beautiful way to meet artists where they are, right? I think a lot of times the education that a lot of Web3 seminars are giving, or, you know, you see these guys talking about crypto on YouTube and want to teach you about crypto, et cetera, et cetera. The biggest issue with them was one, most of them are not free. And two, a lot of times it's not coming from someone that looks like you, that represents the same things that you do. And so, and the language, oh my gosh, don't get me started. They talk about it like in a way that somebody could really understand on a layman's way, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, we have to teach this and we have to offer this. So, in the way that we do, because then artists actually are interested. It's not in all this jargon that separates them. And that's done on purpose, obviously. A lot of that is so that it keeps more, you know, marginalized communities away from this technology. And so I had to be a part of stopping that for sure.
I love that. I'm so glad that you focused around that, because I think that's one of my questions for you, the accessibility or inaccessibility of Web3. Maybe we can talk about that like later. I'm curious to hear more about your Sotheby's drop. And I'm curious to know, is it connected to your cover on Boys, because you did something with Boys Club?
Yeah, no, it's not this. Yeah.
Okay.
Boys Club was a beautiful interview I did with their new magazine. I'm so proud of them. So they started their own zine and like their own mural club, and I'm just so proud of them. And so they did a really dope interview, and I was the cover girl, so I was really happy.
The gorgeous one.
Thank you so much. And then Sotheby's was an auction that I actually did with Pussy Riot and Unicorn DAO for My Body, My Business exhibition. And so I released my trailer for my upcoming project Start Here as a one-of-one piece there. And it was like one of the first music videos to ever hit Sotheby's auction house. And I was really proud of that moment, to be a music video and just to be music, period, and be living within Sotheby's is like a huge moment for myself and my community. I think music artists have never seen that kind of opportunity for themselves, unless they're creating a visual piece. And I really wanted to be gun-ho about shifting the paradigm of music NFTs as fine art. And so having it at Sotheby's was such a monumental moment for us.
Totally, I agree. And I saw like a few tweets that kind of followed with all of that. And you said this story is literally some of our whole lives. We're building culture in crypto because it's Black or women doesn't make it like charity, right? And you said I usually wouldn't share all of this on social, but I'm, exhausted with how Black art, music plus women are treated by institutions. And you also, the last one I loved was you said I was so excited for this moment because I know Pussycat Riot plus Unicorn DAO brought this to life. But the way we are valued has to change, And I as I was reading all of this, I mean, I was like, wow, it just tells, how real this journey has been for you, and that you've put in a lot of work, and I'm absolutely inspired, by you. And if there's anything specific that, was running through your mind when you were tweeting this, you could share.
Yeah. I don't know if you got to follow the whole story about what happened at Sotheby's, but pretty much I had gotten a bid and then someone pulled out of the bid. So pretty much someone gave me a bid and then pulled out. And Sotheby's had told me it was a mistake. And I was like, okay, fine. If it's a mistake, I don't want anybody to own my piece that doesn't really want it. And then along with that, they told me to lower my reserve price. And that's when I got kind of upset because I feel a black woman, we are constantly told to lower our reserves, lower our prices. Undervaluing us is a constant. And I was just over it at that time. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be a moment in time where Sotheby's is going to be very pissed with me for saying it, but it's very true. And, historically, these auction houses have not always been good to Black people and not always been good to women. And so I was just really excited to see a change with them since the exhibition was dedicated to women and works like that. I thought they're going to see the value in this. And unfortunately, it wasn't all that. And so, but luckily my community came in and did bid on the piece. Shout out to Super Chief. They put a bid in and we got our auction going, and I'm very, very grateful for that moment. It reminds me constantly that the community is there, that the community is riding for me. But, it also is unfortunate that it had to happen in this way, and it wasn't through the Sotheby support line that we got our wins.
Wow.
Yeah. It's all good. I'm still very grateful for the opportunity regardless. Sotheby's is still a beautiful name to be adjacent to. I could put that on my resume and be like, we did it, check. Yeah, but
I'm just wondering, like, what is it? And I know that sometimes when a Black person or an African person is having these types of conversation, it's easy for someone to say, oh, that's like a victim mindset. And I'm just like, I think about sports and how sports bring everyone together right? So music has the same power, art has the same power. And,
exactly.
when it comes to sports, you can see like in the moment when the game begins, everybody is allowed to be on the field, right? And everybody values. So sometimes I just wonder what it is, like, what do we need to do? And Web3 especially is the place where inclusivity and accessibility is supposedly part of the ethos. So what is it that we need to do? Is it like having more of these kinds of conversations?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem. I think we ultimately do the work of shutting down moments like this and saying that they're victim moments or you're victimizing it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not a victimization if it's just a conversation on what is obviously the facts. Like, oftentimes all of this is pushed under the rug. Oftentimes these stories are not shared. Oftentimes we're gaslit as artists to say that we're wrong for saying these things, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just tired. At this point, like, I'm very excited about my future and my walk and my journey, but I'm tired enough to speak up. That's where I'm at now. Like, I'm like, if I keep shutting my mouth, my throat gonna close up. Like, I can't, So at this point, it's like, we got to keep saying what it is so that they could change. Because if more of us say it, the more things will transform.
Yeah, I agree. I guess on a lighter note, I want to hear about your new project.
Yeah, sure. So I'm working on so many projects at once, but I have a really dope EP coming up called Joyride. It started out as a Web3 project that I was just, releasing verses from. I am a very flow of consciousness ass rapper, so I'm always just like kind of going with my flows. I started this project called Joyride during the pandemic where I would ride my bike on the LA River and start rapping and like write a verse right after I finished. And then I would do like a music video to it. So we started releasing those in Web3 format first as NFTs. And now that's about to drop on Web2, which I was so excited and nervous about because I haven't like pushed music on Web2 in like 2 years heavily. We just released Platter, which is going to be a part of Joyride. And I'm like, oh my God, new music is on streaming. But I'm very excited and grateful. I've been getting a lot of good feedback, so that's dope. And then I don't know if I could talk about the next big project, but Start Here is all I'm gonna say is right after Joyride, and they are all connected to Tasha's TV. That's all I'm gonna say.
There. We'll be talking. Well, thanks for spilling a little bit of that on NEWFORUM. We're happy.
No problem.
So I saw some beautiful photos of you in Korea. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I was invited to NFT Korea Festival. Shout out to Super Chief again, who showed up and showed out for me. They worked with Playnome, who was some of the hosts of NFT Korea. And I got to exhibit another piece from Start Here there. So I'm doing like this little run of all my pieces in these big exhibitions so people could start catching them. And so I released another piece called The Net at NFT Korea. And it was such an amazing experience. The piece sold for 15 ETH, I want to say, which is like $20,000. I was so excited because it also was a music visual NFT. And I was like, that's another one in the bag that we're just showing up for the music visual NFTs. Then I did a really dope panel with Elise Swope, Swan Sit, Ryan, Thank You X, and Victor Masquet, I want to say is his name. I probably messed up that name terribly. Forgive me, Victor. We did a really dope panel, and then we got to enjoy Korea. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in Korea. Every minute I just kept saying, oh my God, I'm in Korea. I've traveled a lot, but I've never got the opportunity to travel to Korea or like Asia yet. So it was such a beautiful experience to be in that world. And then the way they think about technology and NFTs is so beyond us at this time. I'm like, wow, this is amazing to just like actually be in the future. I know like I live in LA, so it was almost 24 hours ahead of my time period.
Yeah.
And so it was like, wow, I'm actually in the future. Like they had robots everywhere. They had like all this dope art everywhere that was like very in line with like crypto and NFTs and technology. It was just a beautiful new world. And it's nocturnal. I'm a nocturnal person. I like to be up very late at night. And Korea like is up 24/7. The shopping malls start at 6 p.m., like some of them. So it was amazing. I had the best time.
I need to go and visit. I mean,
You should. You'd love it. You'd really love it. It's very city. It's if you're not into cities, it's all good. I'm like half city, half nature girl, but like when I get a good city, I'm like, I like this. I like this.
I like the city life. I mean, I love like observing people and just like watching people live and do their stuff. So that must be inspiring for you in itself.
So inspiring.
Nice.
So inspiring.
You spoke about how they're like kind of living in the future to some extent there. And so I'm thinking about like composability in regards to music NFTs right now. I mean, I don't know so much about the platforms, but I can guess it's more like fragmented, right? It's not connected because if you do something on, let's say, sound.xyz, you cannot maybe plug into audios or I don't know which other.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on what blockchain you're on and if you find an aggregator. So Zora, for example, is an aggregator. So you could actually listen to all of your music from Sound XYZ on Zora as well, and OpenSea as well, and like, different aggregators like that. There's also these really dope new apps that are out right now that allow you to listen to all your music NFTs called Future Tape and Spinamp. And you could create playlists off of all the music that live on Sound XYZ and Zora, which is really, really, really amazing. And so we're starting that walk of like bringing everything together. It's a challenge because the competitive mind spirit is still there and people still want to centralize, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we're on the verge of seeing, and music NFTs become just like streamlined throughout each platform.
And does this, I'd say, process impact the way let's say music NFTs drop. For instance, I mean, as far as I know, I haven't dropped no music. But as far as I know, you have usually, I think they have like Twitter lives, like 30 minutes or so before it's dropped and everything. So I'm just curious, does it impact the drop in any way?
Yeah, I mean, drops, it depends on the artist, honestly. I think it's really not really about the platforms as much. And we're trying to push for that as much as possible. Like, we need to focus on the artists, not the platforms. Because the platforms are just what they are. They're just platforms for you to release the music and figure out like your walk with it. But artists have been doing so many different kinds of cool drops. I've seen artists take their whole album, put it on Sound XYZ, then release a music video, do Twitter spaces along with that, do an IG with that, and like figure out a way to gravitate their Web2 audience into the Web3 space, figure out ways to gravitate their Web3 audience into the Web2 space, and so on and so forth. So there's just like a lot of different ways that you could release this. But as for the platforms, aggregation is definitely here. And we're witnessing a lot of these platforms just be like, okay, let's take some of the content from that platform and bring it to us, et cetera, et cetera. And then artists could resell their music NFTs from different platforms that they weren't on originally.
Yeah, that's great. And you also talked a bit about Web2, Web3, and you're currently going to be dropping something through the Web2 route. So I guess it's safe to say that, or to ask you, where do you think the music industry in general, right, like Web2, Web3, is going to be the next maybe 5 or 10 years? How much adoption do you think is going to happen? Are record labels going to be the same? Even like platform streaming like Spotify, like what do you have any? I mean, not everyone likes to predict, but if you want to,
I'm not the best. I'm not the best predictor, but I like to think I have some psychic tendencies. But I think, I mean, just on the walk of how things are right now, almost every record label has hired somebody in Web3. Like most of them have like a Web3 consultant or someone in that realm teaching them about what's going on. And so in my mind, what I would hope that record labels can do is transform the actual music contract into a smart contract. And a smart contract is pretty much how the blockchain is running. So most of your drops are pushed through a smart contract, right? And if that happens, that means automatic payouts to artists. That means we don't have to deal with 30, 40, 90 a year wait for pay. That means all transactions are transparent. That means the blockchain is like directly showing you music that is doing well, and et cetera, et cetera. I pray for that day. That's the day that I am for. Because that's going to just change everything, then being a music artist won't feel like this very like antagonizing thing where people are telling you that you can't do this when everything is just wide open, I'm a little afraid of it, but I'm really excited for it too. I'm like, either way, it will just be way better than what the music industry is right now if we start moving everything into blockchain. But right now, all I see music industry people doing is trying to create new artists that are NFT PFPs. And I'm just like, you guys could do so much more, like do more. But
yeah,
we will see.
We'll see. So would you consider yourself an independent native music NFT music artist?
No, I consider myself an artist that uses the tools that is NFTs and Web3. I want to like remind people that I've been an artist for a long time before Web3 was here. And I've been doing very well before NFTs too. And so, and most artists should see themselves like that this is a tool. You are before the tool. And so we shouldn't like name artists Web3 artists or NFT artists. We should just be artists that are using these tools. And additionally, when NFTs become synonymous with drops and everything that we do, we're not going to say NFTs anymore. We're not going to say Web3 anymore. It's just going to be the evolution of the internet. And so we got to be okay with that too.
Yeah, well said. I think then my next question would be, is Web3 accessible? I think we've touched a bit on this topic, but maybe we can dive a little bit in that, because I'm really curious to hear that from you. And really, it's an honor to interview you with your background and everything. It's good to hear your voice also. So what do you think?
I got the yes and no for you for accessibility. I think based on the fact that the language and the education is not very forthright and easy to understand without someone guiding you through it, the accessibility is not always very apparent in there, right? So like if you hear from somebody NFTs and Web3 and crypto, you're just like, the first time I heard it, I was like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I don't know anything about this, right? And then I had a person that I cared about really guide me through it and tell me it like I would understand it. And then it became really easy because I saw it in my perspective. So no, it's not in full accessibility yet. But I think with the turn of more of the masses coming in, more of the platforms pulling through and trying to be a part of it, we will see accessibility in the next 3 to 4 years. It's just one, we got to move from the bear market a little bit more. So once we get back to like a little bull, I'm going to say a little bull, because I don't know if it's a big bull just yet. I'm not going to make any financial predictions yet. But once we move back into the bull, more people are going to want to get involved. The masses are going to pull through. I will say this though, I'm okay with the masses not being here yet. Just because once the masses get in, this is going to be hell on high water, and it's going to be a lot of racism, sexism, all the isms is going to find its way in this space. And so if you could give us a little bit more time to figure out how to filter that out before we move forward, I'd be way happier with that. I just think the space is very delicate. It's like having a garden, is really, I say that all the time, but it's like having a garden, and you got to be careful with how much weeds you're growing, and so I'm very, very careful with this space. Money is involved, and whenever money gets involved, people's minds do a lot of wild things. So know your heart before you get into Web3 is what I say.
Know your heart before you get into Web3. Would you say it's an infrastructure problem?
I think it's a branding infrastructure problem for sure. I think the start of Web3 was highly white male crypto and wealthy, right? Like that's where it started from. And that is still being seen most of the time when you hear about crypto, right? So now we're finally in the place where more communities of different backgrounds and understandings is coming into the space. And so the fact that those folks are usually the like white male rich was the ones who started the build out, we gotta like clean up a lot of times, or just make something else, because I keep hearing this damn quote, the Audre Lorde quote, like you can't dismantle the master's house with his tools or whatever. And so I'm thinking about that constantly, and I'm like, well, I got to make my own tools then, and I got to, figure out my own tools with my community more and more. So that's the walk.
Yeah, well, that's not an easy walk, but it looks like you've been doing it for a while, and so you're well on your way. And I want to know what keeps you going, what keeps you when you wake up in the morning, like in the space in general as a musician and an artist. And
yeah, what keeps me going? Honestly, what keeps me going is just the fact that I personally want to be better than I was yesterday. Like I just want to always be a better person daily. And if that's in Web3, if that's in Web2, if that's in whatever, I just want to do it. And the internet has been a part of my life since, I don't even know now, like the whole time, right? And I feel like we've grown the internet, like the people, especially Black people, have grown so much of the internet and made it a dope spot to be in. And so it's time that we own that. It's time that we get a part of that. And so Web3 is our opportunity to do that. And if I could support and be a part of that and show that it's possible, I'll do it. Yeah.
Amazing. You are showing that it's possible. So yeah, you're doing really well. So I guess before I let you go, do you have any recommendations or like any thoughts you'd like to share with other artists?
Sure. Know yourself, know your story, know who you are. Like, no matter what industry you decide to be in, crypto, Web2, whatever, know your story fully, grow your story, start with you. You don't need a label yet. You don't need all that stuff yet. You just need you and your music, and make it and release it. Please share. If anything that I wish I did more of in my beginning years of my music career was not have so much self-doubt that I didn't share as much. Share, release. Because what that does is just teaches you what you really are and what you really want to do. And the world will let you know. And not even the world, like forget the world. Your heart will let you know. So that's my word of advice. Just know yourself. And then when you're ready to get into Web3, then understand that at ETH and all the things in crypto is just energy, just like everything else. And so you got to know your energy when you get into it. And that's it.
I love it. I don't know what to say after this, except that I was jamming to one of your songs. It says, who
am I? Who I am?
Who I am.
Yeah.
I love this so much. And it kind of like, that's came to my mind as you were saying this advice. I loved it. And I was listening to it and I was like, I'm jamming. This was actually, well, the day we were initially going to record, I was like, I was kind of like warming up to everything. And that like really like stood out for me. And I was like, I was like, I'm gonna tell her to like put that out there again, maybe do a remix or something.
Yeah, we're working on some things for it. So yeah, definitely working on some stuff, but we'll see. The universe is
okay. Awesome. So where can we find you on your social platform?
Sure, you can find me at Call Me LATASHA, LATASHA. Also that's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything. I just started my TikTok. It's very new. It's all my weird little moments in life. So I hope y'all enjoy it. And then if you want to just like Google me, it's LATASHA, LATASHA, and an accent on the A. So I will talk to you guys soon, I guess. That's it.
It's amazing. Thank you so much, LATASHA. Great conversation, very insightful, very inspiring as well. Yeah, and thank you all for watching today's episode, listening to us. And if you want to get more involved in our community, make sure to follow us on our social platforms. We're on Twitter. We're NEWFORUM_NCO, and we're on NEWFORUM.io and NEWLive.io. And you can also join our Discord community. We'll have all the links in the description below, as well as LATASHA's link and some of her projects that she's willing to share. We would drop all the links down below. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next episode.
Take care, y'all.